Hey friends, I'm Lindsay Stitches. I am a hand embroidery artist who makes embroidery pieces and embroidery kits inspired by places that I love and places that I want to visit from around Australia. The most recent embroidery design and piece that I have created is of the Blue Boat House, which is located in Boorloo, Perth in Western Australia, which is where I live. So this is a really iconic spot in Perth. It's something that a lot of tourists come and line up to take a photo in front of. I am not totally sure why, but yeah, it's a big thing here. So I thought, you know what, let's stitch Perth's probably most iconic landmark, which is the Blue Boat House. I actually made a video of the entire process of stitching that design. I'll link that video here. So that takes you through the entire process of stitching the piece. But in this video, I'm going to show you all the fun little extra things I did, like adding some watercolor painting to the river and the sky, painting the embroidery hoop brown to make it a little bit prettier on the wall, adding some extra little bits like the birds in the sky. This embroidery design is actually available to purchase on my website as a PDF pattern download, which you can get immediately, or people within Australia can buy it as a full embroidery kit that has everything that you need to get started. That embroidery kit includes everything that you need to stitch the main part of the embroidery. This video is just about the extra things that I did to elevate the design and make it unique and special to me, and something that I'm ready to hang on my wall. So this video is not so much a tutorial, but more of like a walkthrough of my process of adding the watercolor, painting the hoop, and adding the extra little stitches. It kind of just takes you through my entire thought process and how and why I do things. Hopefully it'll help you learn something or give you some ideas about what you can do to your own embroidery pieces to make them special to you. And yeah, I think that's everything from me for the moment. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so here I've got my finished embroidery. I've got a thing of watercolor paints. So I'm going to use this one, obviously, with lots of blues in it. I've got 2 cups of water, one for clean and one dirty. And I've got a piece of paper towel to dry my brushes off with. And I've got 2 little brushes, but they're both pretty small. This one is flat and this one is like a round one, but it's kind of tiny. I don't think I have a smaller one. So hopefully these will do the trick. But all I'm going to do is put some, maybe like a pretty dark blue for the water, and then a nice light blue if I can in the top for the sky, and maybe even some little white bits so it looks like clouds. But I'm really just going to see what happens. So let's just start. I'm just going to check what kind of colors these actually are. So really dark. Now it's quite a royal, like bright blue. This next one this is quite a bright blue as well, I think. Looks pretty similar, to be honest. The middle one looks kind of a bit more purpley. Oh, okay. All right, so I've got like a really royal sort of darker blue. I've got a kind of a bright blue, and then I've got more of a purpley sort of blue there. So honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing that much with watercolor. So I'm just gonna make it up as I go. I guess I might get a little bit of gray happening here and add that to that darker blue and see what I can come up with. That's looking better. So let's, oh, whoa. Okay, it's quite dark. Now I probably, if I was just doing this for myself and I hadn't filmed the whole process, I probably would have done this after stitching the black outlines rather than waiting until it was all done, just because it's kind of risky. I might ruin it. Let's hope not, but it could happen. Still getting a lot of blue on there, and I probably want more gray. So yeah, I would generally probably stitch the black outlines and then do the watercolor and then stitch the color into the bits that I'm stitching color into, so that I'm not at risk of ruining all of the work that I've just done. But hey, we're living on the edge and that is okay. Actually looks kind of good. So I might even go dip it in the blue first and then the gray, looks a little bit more like what I'm looking for. But obviously the water is different colors anyway, so it's kind of cool that it varies. I like the flat brush in these little spaces because it means that I can kind of get into all the little corners that I need to, which is good. Oh, this looks pretty good. Yep, this. A little bit tricky here. You see what's coming? You can kind of see where the inner part of the hoop is, so you can sort of follow that and just paint. If you get too much water on your brush, then it'll bleed and it'll go out past that hoop, but I'm hoping that if I keep my brush just dry enough, then it won't do that. Okay, that looks, I feel like that looks really cool. I don't know if it does on camera or if you agree, but I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna keep going and doing the other side. So I'm probably just gonna speed this bit up so you don't have to hear me gabbing about it. Alrighty, I think that looks really cool. Even though it's a dark blue and is pretty similar to the stitching that we've done, just because it is a different medium, it kind of adds a different texture and a different dimension to your work. So it's pretty cool, and it obviously looks like your stitching is more prominent because the water kind of goes into the background. So I'm really happy with how that's going so far. Now I'm going to try and do like a really light blue. So I'm going to use probably the bright blue as well as some white to try and get a really nice light blue. Oh, that's very white and blue, so not exactly what I wanted, but let's see if we can make it work. Oh, that's looking pretty nice. You can also wet your, and this is the first way that I did it because I just watched a YouTube video. You can kind of wet your fabric first. So just with a wet paintbrush, just wetting your fabric before you apply the paint to it. But I find that that is how you kind of get the bleeding of the paint through the fabric. So I prefer to just do it on the dry fabric, and I think it comes out nicer. But obviously you can do whatever you want. All right, I'm getting a better blue going, just dipping it quickly in the blue and then the white afterwards. The blue is pretty bright. It's a lot, but I kind of like it. I might stitch some stuff in the sky. Some cute little stitched clouds would be really cute, or painted, but we'll see. I love this actually. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to paint on there because I might add some little stitched. Maybe some birds, maybe some clouds, and maybe some little ripples in the water. But otherwise, I think that is all of the painting that I'm gonna do. I do have a bit of an issue here that the blue paint up here has bled into the white. Stitching on the roof, hopefully you can see that all right. But yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, that's the risk of having white thread in there and then painting over it. But that's okay. I think I'll probably just take that stitching out and do it again. Yeah, but that is why generally, if I am going to incorporate some painting into my embroidery, then I would try to do it after I've stitched the outlines, but before I've stitched all the colors to fill it in. But I wanted to show the entire stitching process first, and sometimes you don't realize until the end that you want to add paint to it or add another element to it. So it is what it is. It's not too much work for me to take all of that white stitching out and do it again. I'll probably just do the split stitch, so I won't do the satin stitch like I did on that side, and it'll basically be like 4 rows of stitching, so it'll be really quick. But yeah, I'm just gonna sit that in the sun and let it dry. I might take it out of the hoop just because, I mean, it's probably fine if it's nice and sunny and warm and will dry quickly. But if there is the possibility that it might take a while to dry, and if there's any chance that some of your water or your paint has bled into the fabric, like on the edges, and gets the wood of the embroidery hoop wet, then it could get moldy. So it's probably better to be safe than sorry. But yeah, I'll just take it out of that. It looks so nice and crisp. I love it. See, that's what you get when you use the watercolor on the dry fabric. I think that looks so much better than letting it bleed into the edges. I'm so happy with it. Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna put that in the sun and let it dry. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do to really finish off my blue boathouse embroidery is to paint the embroidery hoop. It just makes it look a little bit nicer on display because, you know, they're just made of wood. They're not that exciting, you know, so I find that painting them kind of levels them up a little bit, so it makes them a little bit nicer to put on display. So I'm going to choose a color that goes well with this. I just have this big packet of paints from Officeworks. I'm just using this size brush. I do have a bigger one somewhere, but it seems to have disappeared. So going with this, hopefully it goes okay for us. Now what I have already done is actually given this outer part of the embroidery hoop a quick sand. I think I use 320 grit sandpaper. I just do all of the outside, the inside, and the edges on both sides. I don't worry about doing the inner part of the hoop because it is going to be behind the embroidery, so it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be able to see it. If you do want to do the inside as well though, then you can. It might actually look nice with just like the wood kind of stained, you know, with like a varnish sort of thing. Because there's a lot of blue happening, it might be nice to make it match the boardwalk rather than the blue. That's kind of like a reddish sort of brown that might not be quite right. I could mix a little bit, that's more of a brown sort of brown, so I could mix a little bit of those two together to kind of warm that one up a little bit. I might try that because you know what, if you paint it and you're not happy with it, you can always just sand it back and paint it in another color. Or if you have more embroidery hoops, like I do, I've got millions, I can just save that one for something else or make something specifically for it and get a fresh hoop and try again for this one. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of paint here and see what I can come up with and decide whether or not I want to use it. I think I want a brown that is like pretty brown, but has a little bit of a red tinge to it. I always end up doing, when I'm mixing paint, doing way too much, but hopefully I can kind of end up with a reasonable amount. So I'm just gonna add a tiny, I mean, I've probably got enough there already, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of the reddish brown there and mix it together and see what we can come up with. It's even a bit dark actually. Probably need to lighten it up. I might even add a little bit of this. I've got this weird like buff beigey sort of color. I might add a bit of that in there instead of white. But like I said, I'm gonna end up with way too much and this is gonna be way too red. Also, just a note, I basically have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to painting. I just make it up as I go. Kind of got the red that I want, but I think I am gonna have to use white because I don't think I'm gonna go. usually like end up with heaps of white, and that's why I end up with white. This was a bad idea for me to film this because it's not, this is my toxic trait. But hey, I am who I am. You know what? I might even add some of this, a nice light brown, and see what that does. I probably could have just made this one a bit darker instead of trying to lighten up the other one. But I'm a bit of a, oh, that's a lot. So, whoops. Yeah, I'm really just a, let's see what happens kind of gal when it comes to paint. Very orange, but that's actually way closer to what I want it to be. Somehow I missed that color before. I don't want to put this too close to here, but that's way closer to what I'm looking for. Whoa, whoa. This is looking good. So I think I'm gonna start painting. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab some paint here and flick it on there. That's pretty good. And I'll do a couple of coats. So I'm just gonna do one, and then I'm gonna really let it dry, and then I'm gonna do another one. So I've done all of it bar this bit right at the top. So you kind of have to really just hold on by the screw when you're doing this. And I'll just kind of try and be nice and gentle and do the inside around the little screws. It doesn't matter if you get paint in there, it'll dry eventually. You just really want to make sure that your paint is dry from the second coat before you go ahead and put it back on your fabric. I just try and go really carefully along here. This is probably easier with a smaller brush, but this is what I'm using. And also you can kind of, if you get it on the metal parts up the top here, it's easy once it's dry to like just chip it off. I don't worry too much if I do get some on there. I'm also wearing a white shirt, which is a bit risky, but I'm taking all the risks today. Okay, so I have painted my first coat of brown onto this embroidery hoop. I'm going to take it outside and hang it on like a clothes airer thing on a peg and let it dry. There's still a little bit of sun, so hopefully it'll dry nice and quickly, and then I can come back and do a second coat. But I think it'll look good. All right, so I've finished my watercolor painting on my embroidery, and then I have painted the hoop and let it dry. I am not totally happy with the brown. It's kind of cute, but you know what? I can always change it. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, just to show you some more things that you can sort of do, is draw, I think I'll do some little birds in the sky, but you could also do like some clouds or some like ripples in the water or something like that, and then you're all done. Amazing. So I'm literally just gonna do, you know how you like drew birds in primary school, like you just do like a little, just like this, they're gonna look cute. So I'm gonna just do a few. I'll do one over here as well, but maybe down here-ish. Okay, so I'm just going to, I have my jar of random threads. So this is where I chuck all of my threads, like once I've pulled them off a bobbin and used them, and they're like not the full 6 strands of thread, or they're short or whatever. I don't put them back on the bobbin. I just put them in this jar just for, you know, random things that I can use them for. So I'm just going to use, I always have black in there, so I'm just going to steal some black, and I'm going to use 2 strands. I'm just going to look at what that stitch is. I think fly stitch. Yeah, fly stitch. So it's kind of, it's an open chain stitch. So it's basically like a single chain stitch. You make it, do it in a V shape. So this is it down the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is, that's just drawn with my heat erasable pen, and I'm going to bring the needle up at the top left of the V. I'll hold my thread down here and then put the needle back down on the other side of the top of the V. Pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through. Just keep holding that bit of thread at the bottom there. And then we will come up at the bottom point of the V, pull that through until it's caught that little loop of thread there. And so you're on the top of that thread. Now you want to bring the needle down on the other side of that thread so it holds it in place. There we go. And then I'm going to do another one here. So I'll bring it up on the top left, down on the top right, hold that loop, up at the bottom, pull it so that it's holding it there, and then down again on the other side of that loop. And that was everything that I added to my Perth Blue Boat House embroidery pattern to make it a little bit more fancy and fun. I think it looks really cool. I love the watercolor element. I love that it adds a different texture, and also it saves a lot of time. Like if I was to stitch all of the water in the river and then all of the sky, it takes forever for a start, and also it means that everything looks a little bit flat. I feel like adding this kind of adds a bit of dimension to it, and yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Whether you were stitching my Perth Blue Boat House embroidery or doing something of your own, if you followed along with this video and added some watercolor or painted your hoop or did something extra and fun with your work, please send me through some photos of your finished work, because I would love to see it and know that I was hopefully a little bit helpful. And yeah, that is everything from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe button down the bottom, and hopefully we can stitch together again soon. Bye!